domains. One is the frequency, in the frequency domain, and one is in the spatial domain. So you get these two. Particularly, we're interested in removing things like noise. So how do we remove noise, spectrum of noise in digital image? Not only we want to remove noise, but we want to see how we can detect the object that is, at the end of the day, while you're using camera, you just want to sense something. So sensing that something will provide a contrast. Light, in this case, contrast between the object and object. There must be a contrast before you can see the object. So that gives us the edge, the edges of the object. That's the one that has the also, we were looking at the two things that governs the quality of these images, namely the resolution and quantization of these images. So we'll hear more about that. In the image processing of techniques, we'll be looking at histogram analysis and recording. You can see these two techniques. They are actually a lot out there. We're just covering this for one lecture. So we those very important ones and those techniques that you can see. And so in the spatial domain operation, when we start to look at images pixel by pixel, there's something that we can do to enhance each of the pixel using a program run through pixel by pixel. One of these would be convolution loss. So you're going to hear about that later. What it does is to average the neighborhood pixel in order to come up with an enhanced pixel. We'll wrap up today's lecture by looking at edge detection. And there's a simple technique that you can use in order to sense what is the edge of this object in an image. So let's do some definitions. I think there was 1 year that this question came out. What is image processing and what is image analysis? Image processing deals with processing the image in terms of enhancing, altering, segmentation, or filtering of the image. So the formal definition is that there's a collection of routines and techniques to improve, simplify, or enhance, and otherwise alter an image. So you can see these are the keywords. In your robotics examination, you find that oftentimes you need to know keywords. The keywords would demonstrate that you could answer that question properly. So I told your seniors, it's a little bit like memorizing some of these keywords for the definition. That's how it is for descriptive questions. So on my part, it's not all descriptive, but it will be more descriptive than the other parts that you'll be having this outdoor class. So for descriptive questions, it's always looking at some of the keywords. So we could process the image by enhancing it, and we use a set of routines or techniques to do that. So later on you get to see that. When it comes to image analysis, it's not about processing anymore. Image analysis means that we are trying to extract information from other images that we process. So examples of extraction of information will be things like edge detection. Because when we can sense these edges of the object, edges not just one side of it, all around this entire edge of the object, then we can identify what is that object. Is after sensing the edge of the object, we kind of know, we can compute what is that object. Maybe it's square and relate to the eyes, or maybe it's a rectangular, maybe all over. So these are some of the intelligence that you can put into your programming. I have collaborated with another faculty last year, where students use the markers, rectangular markers, pasted on a trolley. The idea is to sense the trolley direction and orientation so that the AGV could point inside this trolley so it can move up. So that image identification is the sense that marker, rectangular markers, which is just a red tape. So the challenge is that if you see this rectangular tape from the side, you're not going to look like rectangle. It's looking from the side, it's kind of like it becomes distorted with reference from the camera. So there will be certain cases where that view is too slanted to one side, such that the tape doesn't look rectangular anymore. And you can program into the robot to say that this is a suspected attack. So in order to confirm that suspicion, is to move the AGV to another location and see if that image is not. So these are some of the intelligence that can be where you have to process that object shape and then followed by the analysis. In the past, most of the images that we deal with are 2D. But recently, there are more and more 3D functions. There are even things that relates to your mobile phone. Right now, your mobile phone is 2D. There are some works behind 3D. And this image is a little bit more graphic. But they are not ready yet. It's still that development. There's value in having 3D images because our eyes are positioned a little bit far from each other and allow us to look at things that are 3D. So we are looking at things with a little bit of right side and a left side view together, and this will give us the sense of depth. So that sense of depth provides us with extra information. One good example is this CT scan. You might have heard about it. CT scan, sometimes just called CAT scan. I think this part here is wrong. I look it up. It should be computerized. Computerized tomography. And the CAT scan, CAT stands for computerized Excel tomography. That's a CAT scan. It's easier to visualize this CT scan or CAT scan in a 3D view for the surgeons. And the scanning is actually done in 2D. So if you have a body, you'll scan it, take a slice of your body, and that slice will progress through your body so as to create that 3D image. The way to do that is what we call we melt together that 2D images into a 3D representation. Some of you may not be familiar with CT scan, so what I've done is to take time is to look for a video in order to let you see what is CT scan doing. Let's have a look at this video.
CAT scan is used to detect both bone and soft tissue damage.
It's a CT scan.
Three-dimensional anatomical imagery is created by utilizing X-ray technology. X-rays are used to create images by shining a high-energy electromagnetic beam through the patient's body. This beam casts a shadow onto an X-ray film. A photograph of the internal structures is created through the shadow cast by the varying tissue densities. Softer tissues allow more X-ray light to pass through, while harder tissues, such as bone, allow less light to pass through.
So it's 2D.
While X-rays are limited to two-dimensional renderings, CAT scans are able to generate 3D views by rotating a conventional X-ray beam in a spiral around the patient's body. This series of rotations around the body creates image slices. A computer gathers, compiles, and translates these images into 360-degree view of the targeted area, or even the entire body.
So CT scan is kind of like an X-ray scan. They compile, they melt those images. I think CT scan may not be very commonly heard by a lot of you because we don't very close as such. But there's another one that's called MRI that you may have heard about. So MRI is different from CT scan. It doesn't use X-ray. So although it's not related to today's lecture, but I thought it may be interesting that you have a look at another form of technology that will melt together those 2D images.
When someone suffers from internal ailment that cannot be detected by traditional optical examination, an MRI may be necessary. When an MRI is administered, the patient lies on a retractable platform to enter the machine. Upon entering the machine, the patient is scanned by one of several magnetic coils that emit a radio frequency pulse, targeted at a specific region of the unit. This creates a magnetic field that runs down the tissue. There are billions of hydrogen atoms within the body, which rotate on a natural axis. When the magnetic current is reduced, the atoms align to it like a compass and spin on the axis. When the magnetic force is removed, the atoms return to their natural alignment. As they relax, they emit energy and act as small radio transmitters. Different tissues release different energy levels, and the computer recognizes their distinct pulses. The difference in energy is determined by the atom's realignment time. Dense tissue takes longer to realign than soft tissue. So when the computer receives the different energy levels, it creates an image, which shows dense areas as white and less dense areas as black. With this procedure, the MRI can show organs, tendons, ligaments, etc. It is only because of the sheer number of hydrogen atoms in the body that MRI technology is possible.
So you can see MRI is using magnetic resonance, MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. So that's a little bit different from a CT scan, but both of which you can see would generate a slice of a 2D image, and you can combine all these various slices of 2D images. So in 2D, we call each of these images as a pixel. So you may have heard a lot about pixel. I think some of your cell phone, your screen, you'll be looking at what's the resolution that different manufacturers will give their own fancy cool names for various kind of display. At the end of it, everyone's running on the number of pixels. The more number of pixels there is, the better your resolution. If the resolution is better, that means you can differentiate small little objects as captured in the image. You can look at the details very well. If you look at 3D images, instead of 2D. So 2D we call it pixel, 3D we call it voxel. Instead of pixel, we call it voxel. So sometimes it's called all these cells. So each of these cells, 3D we call it voxel. So in the image, you can imagine that each of these so-called pixel or voxel would display a certain intensity. So if it's a grayscale image, then you will have different shades of gray. If it's a color image, then it will be a combination of the RGB, red, green, and blue, popularly known as RGB. So if it's grayscale, that means it depends on the intensity of that intensity of the light of that image for each of these pixels. The higher the intensity, that means the brighter that pixel is going to be. Conversely, the lower that intensity, that means the darker the image of that pixel is going to be. So it's this collection of this data, of this number of pixels that forms up the entire image. Now, over here, what I was actually trying to do is to, I think this was taken off the slide. Maybe I'll show you this slide. So in the slides, I could combine various colors, shaded colors, and introduce transparency into it. That is one. So I was doing this, hoping that when I combine them, I get the intersection to be white, but I didn't get white. So I was trying to figure out why. That's because this is not, even though it's a little bit translucent, made it that way. Put it together, hoping that the colors mix, but it's not mixing the colors, it's just overlapping. So the true mixing of the color, you can see over here, we get white color. Now, why is this concept important? That's because for any colors that you have, that you can see, it's just made of these three primary colors: RGB, red, green, and blue. So if I have various intensity of this red combining with green combining with blue, then I get the other colors that comes out with, like orange, like yellow, magenta. So you have all these various colors. So it's just a matter of playing with the intensity of each of these primary colors. So this one is for an image that's displayed on the screen. So if you were to go to Simlim and try to buy a camera and then you say, hey guys, have a look at this latest model, and it has 50 megabyte, or whatever definition that they tell you. Don't fall for that because you have pretended possibilities across the production. What you should be looking at is not the quality of the display. Yes, that is important. You'll be looking at what is the construction of the camera that's inside. Because within this thing over here, it's made of the solid state. It's using the solid state technology. What's going on is that this, if I was zoom in, you'll be able to see that there are actually photosensitive areas. We call them photosites here. So these photosites, each of them would be 1 pixel each. So the more photosites that you have, the higher resolution that your image would be. So not only the large number of photosites that is necessary in order to capture a good quality image, but your display as well has got to be high. But these days we call it HD, high definition. What it means is just that your number of photosites has a lot, and your display could display a lot of number of pixels. So these two got to come together. So don't be bought over by just looking at how well the screen can display. if your camera itself don't have enough photo size, then you wouldn't be able to capture a good quality image for display. How this photo site works is that you get charged up, and that amount of charge in each of these photo sites is proportional to the light intensity. So sometimes these are called charge coupled devices, where it behaves just like based on the light intensity, the amount of charge will increase. What I've included here is actually meant for the display RGB. This one should be going on the previous slide. But I put it in here because you could kind of see that from the view. You can kind of see that it's grayish. But what is happening over there is actually the RGB in action. So what I'll do is to zoom in. So I'll blow it up. Right now you can see kind of like the RGB, but actually my view over here I could see, sorry, you can see gray, but the view here I can see RGB. There you go. Did you see three colors? The RGB inside. So because of the various intensity of the RGB, that gives you the end result of white. Yep, just placed together very near to each other. So if you look at your TV screen very closely, you also get to see RGB. They're very close to each other. So when viewed from far, it's as though that RGB colors are mixed together to give you the overall color. So each of these lines over there, maybe I'll start by talking about the non-color version. So if it's non-color version, that is the grayscale. So the grayscale, one such display of the image, one of these lines, so each of these is a pixel. Each of these will be called a pixel. So if I were to focus just on this line of pixel of this entire image, I can't see what's the image yet, but just to analyze pixel by pixel. So over here, your charge coupled device, which is your photo site, is going to capture each of the light intensity based on the object light as shown in the blue. So, for example, this one is black color. It just means that it has a low light intensity. So it has a low light intensity. So that pixel over there is represented on this intensity scale and the number of pixel scale. So you can see that the next one over here, this one is almost white. So it has a high intensity. So you can arrange all of them in this chart over here, intensity versus number of pixels. You have the low light intensity, high light intensity, and the gray one over there will have a slightly lower than the high light intensity, and etc. all the way to the end. This is how we digitize the image, pixel by pixel, arranging them side by side. So each of these pixels is actually a memory location. Right. There's a memory location that's residing in your computer. Later on, we'll see what does it mean by this memory location. It depends actually on your number of bits. So if you have a higher number of bits, then you have higher number of contrast in that grayscale. It is only 2-bit. It is only 1 bit, that is 2 to the power of 1. That means you only can have the option of totally black or totally white. Only this contrast. So you can see that the number of bits will determine the quality of that contrast you get. Not on the image. The image relates to the resolution. So later on, we're going to hear more about that resolution and quantization later on. So in this case, it can be a 8-bit or 16-bit. If it's 8-bit, say over here, if it's 8-bit, that means there are 8 levels over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 levels, including the 0. Right? So if it's 16-bit, that means, so if it's 8-bit over here, that means this part here will be taken as your third one, right? That part there will be your 7th one. Why 7? Because it's coming from 0. So if it's 16-bit, that means you can see that it's final, we call it the final quantized level. So you can see that definitely the 16-bit will give you a better grayscale because there are different kind of shades of gray. Later on, we're going to be talking a little bit about this. So what it means is that if the light is shining onto it, whatever that's captured by your CCD, your couple of devices, that amount of charge is proportional to the light intensity. Let's say if your light intensity resides in between two quantized levels, that means, let's say between this level and that level, that's your light, then you'll be taken as one of those levels, depending on how you program it. Maybe it's a lower level. Right. So if you have a higher number of bits, you can see that that actual light intensity can be captured much more better. So the digital images, we're talking about 8-bit or 16-bit. Let's have a look at a simple one first, 3-bit image. So for a 3-bit image, that's 2 to the power 3. So 2 to the power 3 gives you 8. And 8 here means it's from 0 to 7. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 8. Right? So that is 3-bit. 3-bit. So for a 3-bit image, you could imagine that now the level of gray contrast is not that much. In fact, the level, there are only 7. So if I put a table that's right beside it, and this table I call it the gray image, where it relates to the light intensity level. So for a 0, 0, 0 digitized image, this one to us is 0, and then it will go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 levels. 0 here being dark, and 7 here being light or bright. So that is for grayscale, but how about when we come to color image? Because when it comes to color image, it's no longer about this light intensity, because light intensity relates to the grayscale side. So for a 3-bit color image, what you're going to get is that the first one will be black, and then it goes on to red, as in R, and then red, blue. So red, blue will give you magenta. And then the third level, you'll get blue. And then that's followed by blue and green. If you mix blue and green together, what do you get?
Cyan.
Bluish green, greenish blue.
Cyan.
That's the name for that.
Cyan.
You're right, that's cyan. Do you know the color of cyan?
Yes.
bluish green.
It's more like teal blue.
And the fifth level, green.
Blue is green or blue?
Sixth level, green, red. How about green, red? What is
Yellow.
it?
Yellow.
Yellow. It's not greenish red.
Pink white.
And then the last one would be all of them RGB. That will give you white. So that is for a 3-bit colored image. So you can see that for 3-bit, it's not a lot of various different levels. So your image is just going to look very crude in terms of color, in terms of grayscale. It doesn't offer you a very nice blend of various contrasts. So we could make use of a program to read all these various levels, and the program can be used to duplicate, manipulate all of them, all this a huge array of those pixels. As an example to show you what is happening across the entire image. So just now we only look at one row of that image. So everything is placed together, something like this. This one is a 4-bit display. So sometimes for a low resolution image, if you notice in some of the video in the news, they kind of pixelate this image. So I'm not sure, have you, if you put on glasses, if you take out your glasses, it will melt them all together and you still can see what is that image. You take out your glasses. If you put on your glasses, and this is what you're going to be seeing. So could you make sense of that image? What is that? What does it look like? Actually, I don't know. But what I know is that you can see some very dark spots and a lot of kind of like semi-grayish white band area. So those black spots, very black, they tend to be the speckle of noise. So if you have been playing with images, sometimes you get to see that your image would have some black dots, or sometimes maybe white dots as well. So these are speckles of noise. And if you use, let's say, an image processing software, they have a button that you can despeckle your image. So that despeckling is actually doing something to that image. So today you get to see what is the function behind that despeckling to remove the noise that's present in the image. So for this one, we are looking at a 4-bit digitization. So to the power of 4, that's 16. So you can expect this level of these shades of gray over there to have 16 levels of shades of gray. 16 levels. So just now it was to the power of 3. In this case, to the power of 3 only. So that there are only 8 shades. But now with 2 to the power of 4, you get 16 shades of gray. So your image is going to turn out slightly better. So let's have a look at this one row over here, the top row. So the top row, this first little pixel over here, it has this light intensity that's 15. Is 15 the brightest for 4-bit digitized pixel?
Yes.
It is, yes. Because it's not on 0, that's why the brightness is 15. So please remember that it's always one less than the number of bits. One less than the number of bits, 2 to 4. So one less is 15. So that is the brightest. And then followed by 9, 14, 5, 13, etc. So since it's a 4-bit, if we represent it by the binary number, the binary number for 15 will be 1111. It has a maximum 111144. So the next one, that is 9, that will be 1001. So that one will be 9. The level of grade steel, level 9. The one that's 0, that is the black one over here, that one will give you 0, 0, 0, 0, or 4. So in your image, what your computer is reading is actually this entire string of ones and zeros. If it's 4-bit, then you take the first 4 number, you need the first pixel, the next 4 numbers, you need the second pixel, and etc. So your image is actually just ones and zeros. So depending, you can see that depending on your number of bits, the level of contrast will be better. So your computer will be reading in, let's say, this 8-bit, reading in chunks of 8 numbers, 8 numbers, 8 numbers per pixel. So your image, you could see eventually in what your computer is reading is an array of ones and zeros that way. And we can make use of this array of ones and zeros to do our processing work. There are a couple of things that I need to go through with you. If I were to quickly scroll back, this one over here. This is the light intensity of this single lobe. There's something about this light intensity that I could sketch. This kind of profile at the top part. Right? This kind of profile can be created based on the light intensity of each of these pixels. So, because of this kind of profile, if I remove the bars that's below it, remove the bars, and then just look at that profile actually has an equation. No matter how it's going to shape like, there will always be an equation. And in your mathematics, we call it the Fourier series. Remember Fourier series? Old friend, Fourier.
That guy
But don't worry, I'll walk you through with this concept of Fourier series. So let me start by this kind of give you an outline. What is this Fourier series about? So if I have this kind of waveform, depending on what are all these points here, but I'm not going to go too much into that. Let's call this just sine x. Sine x. And we know sine 2x will give us this amplitude that's going 2 times. So this one is sine 2x. What if I have sine x plus sine 3x? Sine x plus sine 3x. I want you to know that this x here is actually your frequency, the sine of certain frequency that we call x, plus sine of a higher frequency that I call 3x. So if I have this, the lower frequency sine plus higher frequency sine, the overall is going to look something like this.
你还记得那个家伙你们的那个事业的你们的那个
So you can see that there is this basic lower frequency that is sine x plus the higher frequency is 3x over there. If I go a little bit further, let's say sine x plus sine 3x plus sine 5x. Yet adding on another higher frequency, the overall is going to look like this. This freehand sketch here, so may not be very accurate, but just give you an understanding. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So there's a higher frequency content inside. This part here will be higher than that part. A little bit higher over here.
Yeah.
Than the one in the middle. Because the one in the middle will signify the 5x. I didn't give any amplitude over here, so rightfully this amplitude is 1 over 5, this one is 1 over 3, or else you wouldn't get this kind of curve. So now what I want you to see is that I can actually start to sketch whatever kind of curve using this Fourier series. So this thing can go add on more and more, and then I'll get to refine the kind of curve. The eventual curve is going to look like. But there's one very important concept that I want you to know. Could you see that if the frequency is low, this sinusoidal is actually not very steep. This gradient over here is not that steep. Compared to this gradient over here, when the frequency is higher, then you get a steeper slope. This steeper slope just means that it's fast changing. So changing from low to high very quickly. The one that has a low frequency, it changes from low to high slowly. This is an important concept that I need you to know. Why do I need to know this? We need to know this because then, when we put this whole thing together, right, this line over here, what you could now see is that this part here will be what we call slow changing. Whereas over here you can see is fast changing. So for the fast changing side, there will be higher frequency content. The sine, whatever, 5x, 7x, there will be higher frequency content that leads to fast changing representation. And this top part is slow changing, there will be low frequency content. And hence, for an entire image, we can then start to talk about frequency spectrum. Higher frequency content, lower frequency content in the overall image or in that world. And this is one technique that we can use to process the image by filtering off the low frequencies or filtering off the higher frequencies so as to enhance the quality of the image. So this is what we'll be doing subsequently. Let's have a look at this one. It talks about, it's just extracting this one line over there, one row over there. And this row, you could see that it starts off with a very bright, so there's a higher intensity over there. And it kind of went to close to the edge of this object. So you could roughly see that there's this gray patch over there. That gray patch is an object that you're interested in. And you're looking at it line by line. So I'm extracting just that one line. So within that line, there's this grayer area over here, and then it got into a very consistent shades of gray. That consistent shade of gray is an information that will tell you this is where the object is. Right? You may have different shades of gray within the object. If that's the case, then we have to look at the edge around it in order to figure out where is that. So later on, we'll have a technique to do that. But if within the object, that shade of gray is constant, in your intensity figure, you're going to see that this point, that point, this, they are of the same level. So once it's of the same level, across a large number of rows, high chance there's an object over there. Right? And then the light intensity will start to increase at the side. So this is normally what happens. If you take an image, your image tends to be in the center, and you will have a brighter background, or it can be the other way around. Your object is bright, and then your background is darker. If your object is bright and the background is bright, then actually you can't see anything. And there wouldn't be any contrast. For every other thing, we actually need contrast to see the object. If your object is dark and your environment is dark, then you're in a dark room, you can't see anything. So this one here, there's this overall frequency spectrum that you can expect. Over here, going up in that way. So you can see there's a prominent dip over here, a very black spot over there. It tends to be that you can't suddenly have 1 pixel blackness in your object. I mean, how are you going to be creating that physically? Let's say you have an object, a small little hole inside, yeah, that is possible. But if your resolution is high enough, then that small little black hole can be covered by a lot of pixels that's actually forming that black hole that's inside the object. But in this case, it's only 1 pixel that's black. So there's a tendency that for the 1 pixel black pixel, or that 1 black pixel, it is noise. Right? So then we want to remove that noise. And we can remove that noise by applying some techniques that you can see later. But the idea is to remove that noise so that it comes to the same grayscale level of its surrounding pixel. Then we can consider that spectral. So it can be black or very white single pixel within the object. So in this case, what we can do is that if I will pass this frequency spectrum, which comprises of a Fourier series, we don't know what is the equation. But what we know is that at that speckle of blackness, where you have a big drop over there, that big drop signifies a high frequency content or a low frequency content. High frequency content. If you want to remove that high frequency content, will you be applying low pass filter or high pass filter? Applying low pass filter so as to remove the high frequency content. That is what we're doing in this spectrum. If we want to remove noise within an image, we apply a low pass filter so that that high frequency content will be removed. That's what we're doing. When in your image processing software, it's just a click of a button. But programming work behind it, applying that filter. So I'll list down a table. I'll list down a table to demonstrate differences between the low pass filter, high pass filter, both for a slow changing signal, which has a low frequency content, and for a fast changing signal that is a high frequency content. So most of what I spoke about resides in this text over here. I'll just sketch out. So you have the low frequency content, and then the high frequency content. So you can see it's going to be a steeper slope. So this is just an example of the high frequency content. Just to show you that there's a fast changing. So this one is it changes slowly. That one changes. abruptly. So what it means is that there are more low frequencies. I know in this case there's only one low frequency, but I didn't sketch out a combination of all the low frequencies. You can imagine that out of that frequency spectrum of your image, that can have a numerous number of low frequency contents in there. So for those that changes abruptly, that means there are more high frequency that are present. And what that means is that there are more sine or cosine component with higher x. Yeah, that x is the frequency content. So two cases. Let me establish a table. So the first one is if I pass the low pass, and the other one is high pass filter. Two cases. So let's have a look. Slow changing low with a lot of low frequencies. If I apply a low pass filter, what will happen to that image? Do you think your image would pass through without being filtered? If you apply a low pass filter. The low pass filter means that all low frequency would pass, right? So low pass. So your image passes through. If you have low frequency content and you apply a high pass filter, that means all the low frequencies will be filtered out. What that means is that low frequencies will be trimmed. That means removed, trimmed off. And what it means is that it actually retains noise if there are some noise present in the low frequency. So it could be a mixture of low and high. In our case, if it's purely low frequency, there will be no noise. Usually when you apply a high pass filter, because you maintain the higher frequencies, and higher frequencies actually will give you the contrast because it's passing. So a high pass filter normally will give you the image quality that will improve. And if there's a higher contrast, that means the edge of the image, the edges would be sharper. But we know that if it's a purely low frequency image, we say that there is no high frequency to start with. So this kind of characteristic would not be present if it's just purely low frequency. If it's just purely low frequency, then there's no high frequency to start with, so you wouldn't enjoy all these characteristics. Let's have a look at for the abruptly changing signal. So if I apply a low pass filter to that image that has a lot of high frequencies in there, what do you think is going to happen to the high frequencies for the low pass filter? All the high frequencies would be removed. So high frequencies will be trimmed. And what it means is that you have to use the influence of noise. So in some of the commercial product, we call it recycling. But because you remove these dots of noise that's present inside the image. And if you apply a low-pass filter to a high-frequency content image, that means the image, and in this case, the image is fast changing or it changes abruptly. It's different textbooks call it differently. Fast changing image, that means high-frequency content. Image will disappear because there are just no more low-frequency content. It is a purely high-frequency content image. If you apply a low-pass filter, then that will essentially remove the image. Now, there's another one. The image clarity will be reduced through attenuation. Edges. So this attenuation of edges sometimes is not a bad thing. I'm not sure, have you played with images before where you kind of look at that object and it has a very sharp edge, and then you tell yourself, no, I kind of want to make it edges blur a little bit, so that my image now looks more of a romantic feeling. It's kind of like a wedding picture. You know, some of the edges has been made blurred, so that it looks cloudy, heavenly, very romantic. So there are some of these outcomes that you want from the image. You don't want it always to be, very well. If you want to blur those images, then you apply a low-pass filter, and the low-pass filter will reduce the clarity of the edges, and it's giving you this more blurring effect. So let's have a look at high pass. So for high frequency content, passing it through the high pass, that means the image will pass through. So if there are some mixture of a little bit of a low frequency, the image with the slow changing frequency, that part disappears. So that means you're actually enhancing the contrast of that. That also means that the noise, if there's high frequency content in there and pass through a high pass filter, the noise and the edges are maintained. So the overall effect is just blurring off, and then your noise and the edges are maintained. So normally it's slow changing, apply high pass filter, fast changing, apply low pass filter. Normally it's that way. Don't really use it that way now. All right, let's go for a quick break, 5 minutes break, and then we'll be back.